Hi, I'm Margaret Applin. How do you define wearable art? Is it in the materials you use? Is it in the selection of patterned fabrics? Is it in the structural design lines of the pattern itself? Is it the design influence of another culture? Is it in the fine details? Is it in the colors? And is it in the construction? These are great questions for you to ask yourself to define what you feel is wearable art. Back in the 1990s, my mother and I made women's and children's barn-style jackets out of drapery and home decor fabrics and their coordinates. We used commercial patterns that were easy to sew and sold them at craft shows in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. My background at the time was interior design, and I fell in love with the fabrics but wanted to present them in a different yet functional way. My mom and I made a lot of garments that our customers loved because of those beautiful fabrics. Coordinating collars, cuffs, and pockets was no problem when you stayed within the collection you were using. We did this for a few years, and then I yearned for something a little more creative. I wanted to create my own fabrics and designs for a different look altogether. This led me to discovering a number of amazing independent fashion designers with incredible garment patterns and totally outside-the-box techniques from industry standards. Additionally, it led me to the discovery of surface pattern design. Screen printing, stamping, stenciling, mark making, stitching, cutting, shaping, and more. This was a revelation for me and has driven a lot of my design ideas over the years. Becoming aware of just how many different applications and techniques could be used to create garments was such an eye-opener. And when you combine techniques, you could achieve even more unique-looking garments. Unlimited potential? Yes. Overwhelming? Yes. Exciting? Yes, yes, yes. I put together this little introduction to my views on wearable art for you because as I show you how my design ideas come together, you can understand a little better where my inspiration's coming from along with my thought process. My goal is to use my stencil designs and a variety of techniques to create garments for me, the almost 50-year-old me. I will be using commercial patterns such as Buttrick, Vogue, and Berta, and also patterns by independent designers that have a relaxed feel and inspire layering. Here and there, I will also create garments using my own surface pattern design fabrics printed at Spoonflower. So how do you define practical wearable art? This is a really good question and something you should think about before you begin creating. I believe that practical wearable art includes garments and accessories that can be worn every day, exhibiting a unique style with controlled color applications and creative but subtle detailing. There's a big difference between runway style and practical style. That said, you shouldn't suppress your creative juices if your personal style is all about making bold statements. If your favorite color to wear is neon pink, then by all means use neon pink in your wearable art. You get what I mean. It helps to know what colors you love that you feel safe wearing and work around those to help you start. I constantly find myself in between two extremes. All my life I've worn conservative corporate office type clothes during the work week, and then more trendy, colorful things outside of work. I think because I'm so conservative at work, it makes me create more over-the-top looking things that are super fun to create, but that are not necessarily practical to wear outside the studio. My challenge, and I'm sure possibly your challenge, is creating beautiful and unique garments that don't look like you stepped out of a crayon factory or combines too many pieces of torn and shabby remnants. Finding that balance can be harder than you think. Can I do this? Can I practice what I preach? That's the best question of all, and I invite you to come along with me while I work to create great wardrobe pieces that totally reflect my creative side, but in a more practical way for everyday use. The first project, that's not quite finished yet, is a kimono type shrug. I love this style and piece for layering, and I think it could be made more dressy or more casual depending upon the materials used. I went with a more casual look here. The pattern I started with is Berta 6850. This pattern is for woven fabrics and has a buttonhole closure in the back and optional cuffs. My inspiration for this shrug began with a beautiful silk top by Stella Rosa made in Italy, 100% silk in a flowy A-line tank top design with lace around the neck and wide lace on the bottom edge. It looks like it floats with a layer of sheer over the same color fine knit. We have a fabulous store here in New England called TJ Maxx, and you can find fantastic clothes at great prices. I paid $24.99 for this specifically to wear under a short jacket, a sweater, or a shrug. What I wanted to create was just a pullover without any back closure, so I used the front pattern piece only, and I cut the neck hole slightly larger. Additionally, I had an old linen tablecloth that had nice rolled hems on it, so I placed my pattern bottom edge on the rolled hem edge so I could use that as my finished edge. The linen doesn't drape as well as something lighter, but the sleeve design stands out more due to the stiffness of the fabric. I thought this would be a great piece to use my Just Collection stencils on, and the long flat surface of the shrug piece would work great for stenciling. I chose to run the smaller, tighter design along the bottom edges, both front and back, and use the large medallion to create a decorative element on the sleeves. An important note when stenciling: for a more subtle application, it helps to use the flat top stencil brushes with less paint. Less is more. Based on the sand color of the silk tank, I went with a slightly darker brown textile paint on the off-white linen. Looking at it now, I would go even lighter next time on the textile paint color, but I still like how the application turned out. My plan for the neck edge finish was to cut bias strips from the same fabric to apply, but in the end I turned the edges in and attached a knit fabric by machine that self-rolled, and then I tacked it with embroidery floss for a different look. The last step will be to hem the sleeves, but I need to get my serger out and dust it off so I can finish off the rough edges of the seam allowance. Berta also makes a knit fabric pattern in the same kimono style, which can be purchased and downloaded online. This pattern is number 127. Stay tuned for more making and less talking. Thanks for viewing.